like to talk a little bit about some of the development tools we're going to use from Atlassian. JIRA, Bamboo, and Bitbucket, along with SourceTree. And how do these play in with some of the tools that are currently deployed? Okay, right now there's 3 core products I believe that are being utilized over there. Rally for Agile Project Management. We're going to use JIRA in its place. If you've already used JIRA, then it'll be an old friend, right? If not, then the benefit to you would be that it's very popular Agile project management tool used on a lot of teams, right? Very popular with software development in general. So having that, knowing how to use JIRA and work on an Agile team that uses JIRA as its project management software, it's going to be a big help, I believe. TeamCity, continuous integration. I believe some of these tools have fallen by the wayside because the lead engineer departed, and he was the real driver behind using these tools. But we're going to use Bamboo. Bamboo is easy to use. You're going to see how nice that is. And for repository management, currently you guys are using Subversion. We're going to migrate to Git and use Bitbucket as the repository manager. Subversion is great, right, for small projects. I've used Subversion for a long time, and I still use it. But after using Git, I should say, on my last project, I'm a big believer. I like Git. Makes workflow a whole lot smoother in teams. So I think you guys will appreciate it as well. And now for using Subversion, you probably use Tortoise SVN for your Windows client. There's a product called SourceTree we're going to use as well. It doesn't work exactly like Tortoise SVN, but I think you'll like it. Makes working with Git a lot nicer. Okay, helps you do your check-in, check-out, and commits along those lines. Okay, so this is just an overview tutorial. I'm not going to go in-depth on each of the products. I just want to give you a flavor for what they do. So the setup that I'm using to demonstrate these products everything's running on a Big Mac. I'm using a couple different VMs. The first VM is a Windows 2008 server. That's where all 3 products are deployed. Here I've got a Chrome browser open on the Windows 2008 R2 server, which I've just adjusted to fit within my broadcast screen here. So you can access it, on the server itself, right? But we don't need to do that. We can just access all these tools from our workstations. And I'm using Windows 7 Professional as my workstation software. And on this machine, I'm running Chrome for the browser, or, we'll need the latest edition of, or not necessarily the latest, but a current edition of Internet Explorer or Chrome or Firefox. I think these products work best with Chrome. At least I get good results with Chrome. I'm using Visual Studio. I've got Nant. I've got NUnit, so I can run all my tests and builds and everything like that. And I've got SourceTree loaded up on this machine. So let's take a look. And we'll start with JIRA here. I've got JIRA open in my browser. The nice thing about these products is they're all nice and tightly integrated. So you can move from JIRA to Bitbucket to Bamboo. And once again, JIRA is the project management software. So let me just go to Bitbucket. Bitbucket is the repository manager. So what Bitbucket allows you to do is create repositories, browse repositories, branch, merge, etc., etc. It lets you manage your Git workflow process. In this window, I've got the branches showing. So I've got one master branch right now. Now, the project that I've created is a extensive .NET application, Microsoft ASP.NET, that I developed for a customer a while back. Okay, and it's the biggest hunk of source code that I had in order to do this demo. And as soon as I check out a branch and bring it over from the server to my workstation, then I will be able to power that up and let you get a quick look at it to see what it's all about. Okay, now Bitbucket, we can go to Bamboo. Bamboo is a continuous integration application, and I've got PPTs set up here. So when it's set up now to whenever we make a change to the repository and we pull our changes and merge them down to the master origin master repository, it'll automatically kick off a build. Okay, so typical workflow. All right, this is not, like I say, an in-depth review of JIRA, but we'll go back to JIRA. And this is what you're looking at here is just a standardized system dashboard. There's a couple widgets I got. I've created a sprint. I've got 8 days remaining in my sprint for this particular release. Okay, so it shows up here. I've got I have an issue that's assigned to me. No issues are currently in progress. So each of us would be able to see what issues are assigned to individual users, right? Developers, I should say. And we can get an overview of the sprint as it's running. We can see how many issues have been created versus how many have been resolved. So all kinds of stats, right? So it's real nice. Now I'm going to go to the PPTs board, which is the project-specific board, and I can see that I have a to-do. In other words, this particular view, I've got different views. I've got a backlog view. Right now, there's no issues in the backlog. I've got one issue in Sprint 1 that remains to be completed. This is the active Sprint view. Okay, I've got, again, one to-do, and I've got nothing in progress, and 2 of them have been completed. When I'm ready to start work on this sprint, I can go to this board, or on this issue, I should say, and I can just go ahead and drag it over to the in progress. Okay, so now I've updated the project and the issue. So if I went and took a look at that issue, it would show that it's in progress right now. Okay, I could also change the status here if I wanted to. I could change the in progress, change the status from in progress to done. I can do that by clicking to do, in progress, or done up here. So there's a couple different ways to skin a cat, as they say, in order to work with this app. Okay. And when you're in the issue view, you can make comments. Okay. It'll give you the work log history, activity on what's been done. Okay. Et cetera, et cetera. And we can customize a lot of these views. So now that I'm in this issue and it's in progress and I'm getting ready to work on it, I can actually go ahead and create a branch. So the general workflow for working on a particular issue, right, or feature for an application would be you've got some tasking assigned via JIRA, and that keeps track of what we've been assigned to do. Once you're ready to start working on a feature or bug fix or whatever, then you would create a specific branch for that particular work that you're doing. You'd make all your changes to that branch, and then you would commit your changes to that branch as you go throughout, doing your work. And then when you're ready and everything's tested locally and you're happy that everything is done, then you would push your branch, push your changes, all the changes that you committed locally, back to the server for that particular branch, and then you would create a pull request. So let's kind of go through that step. And I'm going to use PPTs-3, which is the key for this particular issue, to create my branch. So when I'm in JIRA, when I click Create Branch, it will take me to Bitbucket. So now I'm working in this repository, the PPTs repository, and I'm going to suggest that we probably just use custom whenever we want to create a branch, and that lets us name it any way that we want. I'm just going to name the branch PPTs-3, which is the key or issue name or issue type or issue number that I'm working on. I'm going to create the branch from master, And here we have a graphical graphical depiction of what's going to happen. So I'm branching off the master, which is going to be the most up-to-date copy. I'm going to create a new branch on the server called PPTs3. So I'm going to create the branch. Okay. Now, recall that I'm on my Windows 2008 Windows 2007 or Windows 7. Okay, Windows 7 Professional Workstation. I'm going to go in Bitbucket, right? Click on branches. I see that I've got two branches, the master and the PPTs3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say go ahead and check out in source tree. So it's going to pull up my client on my Windows 7 workstation, source tree client, right here. It's going to say clone new. So if you can visualize, we got two branches on the server. I'm getting ready to pull off the PPTs3. I'm going to click right here so you can see the halo. I'm going to pull off, clone PPTs3, and I'm going to tell it where to put it on my local machine. I'm going to put it in the C drive in my projects folder. And I'm going to put it in the Git clones folder. So I'll select that folder. And I'm going to name my local branch PPTs-3. Just like that. And I'm going to hit clone. So it goes out there, pulls over all the source code, and copies it to your local workstation. And now you have a local branch that's been cloned from the server PPTs3 branch. And whenever you make a change to source code, you're going to commit it to that local version of that branch. And as soon as this thing is done, I can set up Visual Studio to point to that solution, and we'll build it in Visual Studio. And that shouldn't take much time. There's quite a bit of source code with this particular project, which is why I decided to try it out. It gives me a fairly realistic view. Okay, so now it's finished. And you see, I have done this a few times in the past, but this is actually the history of this particular branch from when I first created it during early testing to now. So origin head, origin PPTs3, origin master, and PPTs3. Those are just my, branch graphs. All right, so I really don't need to do anything else with source tree at this point because the local PPTs3 branch has been created. And right up here we can see we've got PPTs3 up here in the C:\projects git clones. So we can actually minimize this right here. We can actually minimize our browser. Now I'm going to pull up Visual Studio. And I'm going to open the solution, okay, because with PPTs, so I'm going to go to Projects, Git Clones, Source, PPTs, and there's my solution for this project. So it'll open up the project. You can see right here in the Solution Explorer in Visual Studio, there's quite a bit. There's a lot of, it's a logically layered app. So we've got business logic layer, the web app itself, and data access layer along with infrastructure. Okay, so I'm going to right click on build solution here on the solution itself, and I'm going to build it, and we'll see down here in the output as it builds. There's 700 some odd unit tests too for this particular app. So it's going to run all those unit tests, and once it's built, we can actually power up the app with and hit it with a web browser. Take a look at what it looks like, and then I'll make a change. And once I make a change to the source code, I'm going to commit it. Then I'm going to push that change back to the repository that's on the server, and then I'm going to go in and create a pull request in order to merge it back down to master. And then once I do that, we'll see that Bamboo automatically kicks off and builds. So that will be the round trip. And that would pretty much conclude this video at that point. All right, build complete. Now we're going to run some tests. I'm sorry, it ran them. So up here were the tests, 776 tests, and it built all the web components. Okay, so now let me pull up the web browser again, and I'm going to create a new window, and I'm going to just hit localhost PPTs. And the app should pop up in the window here. Okay, so it's just a neat little web app, and it was built in order to create intelligence analyst production issues, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into it, but okay, so it's working, it's running. Go back home here. All right, so I'm just going to close that window so we see that's working, and minimize that window there. Okay, so back to Visual Studio. Now I'm going to pull up. I think my issue is clean up some old comments, useless comments. So I believe I got some useless comments in my data access layer. So I'm going to go to data access, DAO. There's a whole bunch of DAOs there. I think I've got report. Let's see here. Report DAO. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down and see if I can't find a useless comment. Well, there's probably no useless comments there. I'll just go ahead and enter a comment. How about that? Just to demonstrate. It doesn't bother me. Okay, so I'm going to actually create a comment. All right. Now I've made a change to the source code. Now normally the workflow would be we'll build. All right, so I'm going to build to make sure I didn't mess anything up here in Visual Studio. So build the solution again. So when Bamboo does a build, Bamboo can use Visual Studio MS build files as well as NANT, N-A-N-T, or build scripts as well, build files. All right, so we're building. It's almost finished here. And okay, so it's finished building. Now what I can do here is pull up my source tree and click on my working copy. All right, and here I've got two sections. One's called staged files and unstaged. I'm not going to check in any of my DLLs or any of the PDB files that were a byproduct of the build. What I'm looking for is my source code. Okay, so when I find the source code that I changed, which should be up here somewhere. Well, let's go down here. PPTs, tests, web. Okay, debug. Oh, report, yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and you see it added it up here to the top. Now I need to go into my repository settings. I should have did this earlier, and make sure that I can actually commit. So Rick Miller. Okay. That is a step that we won't need to do over there because we'll have all the permissions and SSH keys in place. Now that I've got my file that I want to commit, I'm going to go ahead and just click on commit. So up here in the upper left hand corner, click that, and then I got to put a comment down here, and hit commit. So it commits. Okay, now, so it indicates here that we have a commit, and now we have to push. So we've committed our change. Now we need to push our change up to the server repository. So here we have a window. When I click that push, it shows the local branch I'm working on, which is PPTs, and I'm going to push it to the remote. So we can make a choice, but we always want to push from the local PPT, whatever issue tag that we're working on, branch to the remote server's repository with the same corresponding tag. And that's how we deconflict what we're working on, essentially. So go ahead and hit OK, and it pushes it to the server at this point. All right, now we're done with our client. We pull back up our server, and we go to Bitbucket. I'm going to come back up here to commits. All right, so it says right there, there's my commit history today. A moment ago, it says I added a comment. That's my message, and that's the commit number. So I'm going to go back down here to the branch, and PPTS3 is the branch that we committed to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pull request. Now, this is a pull request is you're done making your changes and now you're ready for it to be reviewed, okay? So I'm going to select, you see this little arrow here, right, where we're coming from? We're coming from the PPTS repository to the PPTS repository from PPTS3 branch, and we're going to pull down to master. This is where we're going to merge our change. So we can take a look at the diff, right? So here's the only code that was changed. You'd have a whole list of source files that were changed as part of this merge or the pull request. And it shows there's the highlighted changes, okay? So once you've reviewed it and you're saying, all right, yeah, I'm good to go, you click continue and add a description, and reviewers would be added here, who go in there and take a look at this pull request, okay? So now this is just a request. Once the pull request is open, all three of us would be able to go in there and take a look and go, okay, let's take a look at this. Right, here's the commit, there's the diff, here's the overview of this request. And if we're happy with it, then we hit merge. You hit the merge button and it'll come up with a graphic description of what's going to happen. So we're going to merge from PPTS3 to master. And I'm going to go ahead and click delete the source branch after merging, because at this point we're not going to need that source branch anymore, because we're finished with those changes associated with that particular number. We could put an optional message here and then hit merge. And at that point, once it's merged, which it indicates that it is, we can go back to branches. This is all in Bitbucket. And we see that the PPTS3 branch is gone, the master is there. And if we go to Bamboo, we should be able to watch Bamboo. Oh, see, it's kicking off the build already. So we can go into, click on this build and watch it do its business, if it lets us do it while it's in progress. All right, so it built pretty lickety-split fast, so it says changes were, the build was successful, excuse me. And up here, you get a history of the build. You can see right there was a problem when I did number 12. All these other tests were successful. Okay. And that's pretty much it. You go round trip. That was a round trip giving an overview of JIRA, Bamboo, and Bitbucket, along with source tree, of how you would take an issue, start working on it, create a branch with Bitbucket, and then clone that branch to your local workstation. All right, and then make your changes, commit the changes, push the local branch changes back to the repository of the branch with the same name, and then issue a pull request to merge that branch down to master. And that is probably the workflow, more than likely, that we'll adapt when we get these tools in place and we start working towards a different workflow. Very straightforward. Look forward to coming over there and working with you guys. Have a nice evening.